Today I'm going to be making a card with the Whale Done stamp set and coordinating DSP, and I did some fussy cutting. We'll be using the bubble stamp from this particular set, and I'm also going to be using some of the dies from the Sailing Home. We'll be using the seagrass die here, and we'll be using the boat wheel. Had to think about that. Okay, also from my stash, I'm going to be using this seagrass die from an old Whimsy stamp set, die set. I'm going to be using the DSP for the Whale Done stamp set, and I'll be using the whale paper and the turtle paper, this background piece of seagrass, and a piece of Just Jade in color DSP. Okay, so let's get started and I'll show you what I've done. So the card layout will be like this. I have not put this one together, but I want to show you how I did the background to put the pieces together, and then I'll show you all of the elements to make the card. So what I'm going to do is start with a number 8 round watercolor brush, and I have some water here and a palette, and in my palette I have 2 drops of shaded spruce and 2 drops of Just Jade, and then 2 drops of Pretty Peacock in my little dish here. So I'm going to take my brush and dip it in my water, and I'm going to start with the shaded spruce, and I'm going to take the water and I'm going to wet my paper, and this is the shimmery white paper. Then I'm going to wet my brush again and not wipe off the water, and dip it in the shaded spruce ink and drop it in the water that I placed on the shimmery white cardstock. Okay, so looks about like that. Then I'm going to clean my brush. I'm going to use the water, and I'm going to do another section of the paper. I've wet it with clean water. Now I'm going to dip my brush again in the water. I'm going to dip it into the Just Jade ink and drop the ink into the water that I placed on the cardstock. Now I find that this new ink from Stampin' Up! Reacts a little bit differently. The formula acts a little differently for me on the paper. I don't know if that's because it has something different in the ink, but that's what it is. I also didn't get that quite as wet, so I'm going to clean off my brush again. I'm going to wet another section. So you're going to have 3 sections. I'm going to wet the brush again, not wiping it. Take some of the Pretty Peacock and drop it into my water. Okay, so you can see that we have 3 sections here. Okay, if you find that you have too much and it's pooling too much, I'm going to clean my brush here, wipe it off on a rag. You can take a paper towel and just dip the corner of it into the water and let it absorb it, and that'll take some of the excess water from the paper and just get it onto the edge of your paper towel. Okay, so then you need to set this aside and let it dry. I let mine dry overnight, and when you're doing this, try to make them equal sections. I've made this one a little bit large, but anyway, you'll get the idea. So you need 3 separate sections. So let me bring the card back in and show you. I'm going to set that aside to dry. I've already done one and let it set overnight, and this is what it looks like, and I have glued it down to the Pretty Peacock card base. Okay, I've done an envelope with the stamp in the Whale stamp set in Pretty Peacock ink. I've also done the same for the inside of my card. So let's get started putting it together. So you're going to take your card base once it's dry, and we're going to put things down on here. But before I do that, I'm going to take the Bubbles stamp set, or the dots, whatever you want to call them, from the Whale Done stamp set. And I'm going to stamp each of the colors of ink in on top of the sections that I've done for that particular color. So open up my ink pad. Now get the ink off my finger. Okay, so I'm going to do the Just Jade first because it's the lightest color, and you just want to put some bubbles around there. You're not going to be able to see too many because we're going to cover it up. And then you want to clean your stamp. And then I'll do the Shaded Spruce, which was the first one, and it's a little dark on here. So maybe put a few at the top and on the side, like that. Every time you do this, it turns out a little bit differently, and it depends on the paper that you use. I've also done this on watercolor paper. Here's a test one that I did on the shimmery white as well. And here's one that I did on watercolor. Didn't quite wet the paper enough on this one, and so it more looks like blobs. But once you put the design pieces over the top, it doesn't show. So they're all workable. If you don't have the inks to use the inks, by all means use some watercolors, whatever watercolors that you have. I'm just showing you what I used. Okay, so I'm going to put down my pieces. I'm going to start with this piece cut from the Designer Series paper from the Whale Done set. I'm going to get my glue here, and I'm going to go ahead and leave the tips of it not quite glued, but I do want the base of it glued down. Okay, so I'm going to set that just below where my watercolor starts. Okay, and it'll be like that. Then I have another piece here that was the same, and I cut this piece off to put on the other side of the card. So we'll do the same with this one. I'm going to leave the very tip of it, of the grass, unglued. Okay, so I'll put this one down about in the center, like that. And then I'm going to take this one and I'm going to put it off to the right side. And I want to sort of put the whale a little bit in between this grass, so I'm going to put it off here to the side there. Put a little dab right there. And then I'm going to take my whale, which I've put some dimensionals on the back, and I've cut some very tiny strips for the tail there from the mini dimensional packet. And then we're going to put the whale on there, and I'm going to kind of stick his tail through here. And if I can, well, maybe not. Let's see. Maybe we'll put him through this one, the taller of the two. Do it like this. These are very delicate, by the way, so you want to be kind of careful. All right, so I'm going to put him right about there, like that. Okay, just make sure he's not hanging off the edge of your card. Then for the middle one, the small little turtle, I'm going to basically kind of do the same thing, but I'm going to start with this grass. And again, I'm going to leave the tops unglued. So I'm just putting a little glue on the bottom of the grass and down towards there. I'm going to put this one smack dab in the middle, right there. Okay, like that. And then this one I'm going to offset just a little bit to the left. Don't want to totally hide this. I wonder if I should move it over this way a little bit. There. So this one can go here and you're not hiding it too much. So again, not all the way to the top. Put the glue on there. I'm going to set this one a little bit more to this side. Like that. A little too high on this one. So I'm going to just clip off the end of that. Okay, and then I'm going to take this little guy, and I've also cut up some dimensionals for the back of him as well. I'm using regular and the mini. And so let's see. This DSP is not very thick, so it's what I call delicate. You want to be very careful in peeling things off. And I'm going to put him right about in the middle here, like that. Okay. So then for the last one, I have cut a wheel with the die cut from the Sailing Home set. And I'm going to put it down first. And so I'm just going to put it around the circle of the wheel. I'm going to put it down here. And I'm going to take my seagrass that I cut off of the first one. And I'm going to put it over that, placing the majority of the glue down the center and leaving the top free. And I'm going to place this right about here. And then I'm going to take the green turtle and again cut up dimensionals for the back. And then I'm going to put him down, floating over the wheel like that. Okay, so there's the basis of our card. And then I am going to put down my little sentiment says hello. This card's going to be handwritten inside, missing you. I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the center of this, and then I took a mini dimensional and cut it in half and put it on each edge of the hello. This is a 1/4 inch piece of Pretty Peacock. So I'm going to put it over the center here. Hope I have that straight. Okay. I guess the center didn't stick up as much as I thought to hold that. So if I were you, I'd put one more piece of dimensional in the center. All right, so there we have that part of it. And I noticed that I forgot to put any bubbles on my over here. So I'll just add some right there. Maybe some over here, like that. Okay. Clean my stamp. Okay. And you can see just a drop or two of ink will go a long way. You could make many of these covers for your cards, or try it many times until you get exactly the saturation and everything that you want. Now, to finish the card off, I have selected some of the gems from the Whale Done bundle, or suite, I'm sorry. And so I'm going to use my Take a Pick tool to put these down and put them in kind of select places. So let's see. I'll put one here. One up here. Sometimes I have a hard time getting the Take a Pick tool to come off of it. Take some of the little tackiness off. Okay, and maybe another one down here in between the two. All right, and then put one over here. Another one down here. I could leave it at 5. I think I'll go ahead and use all 7. Give it a little more color over here. Little bling. And one last one, because we don't want to have an even number. Put one down here. Like little sparkling jewels of the sea. Okay, so there's the card for today. And that's from the Whale Done stamp set. Thank you very much for watching my video.